Thanks for joining and thanks for your patience with me. I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Is everybody ready? I'm the only one having issues, I guess. The first thing on our agenda is to vote to reorganize the committee. And this was on the agenda because we were expecting some new members, but there were some issues with the subcommittee to appoint the members. So we're not able to welcome our new members, and we're gonna table this for now. Actually, I believe I'm supposed to read this first, right, David? Due to an increasing concern surrounding the coronavirus pandemic, this meeting will remain closed to the public. Video and audio of the meeting may be aired on Comcast Local Channel 9. A recording of all meetings will be posted on the West Bridgewater YouTube channel. So sorry, I forgot to read that.
You did good. You're fine.
Thank you. So we will welcome new members hopefully soon. And we'll move on to the presentation. I believe we have some guests to present. So David, do you want to give us a little intro?
Sure. So thank you, and hi everybody.
Hello, Dave.
So what we're going to do tonight is that the Board of Selectmen have called a special town meeting, posted for September 21st, and there's only going to be one article. That one article is to attempt to change the commercial zoning on Lincoln Street over to industrial. And the reason being is that because over the past year, Rich Hartline, who you see, he's in the top right-hand corner of my screen, he's waving. He's looking to develop the parcel and use it and put a couple of warehouses on it. And then the front of the Route 106, which is already commercial, that would be switched to industrial, but he would do commercial property there as well. So I'm going to turn it over to him in just a minute. I will let the committee know the Board of Selectmen spent about an hour and a half looking at this with Mr. Hartline last week. Hugh Hurley, chairman of our planning board, he was there. He's with us tonight in case you have any questions, because the vote from FinCom in the vote at town meeting is not specific to Mr. Hartline's proposal. The vote is actually to change the zoning from commercial to industrial, which will allow his proposal to go forward. In order for his proposal to be effective, we also are looking to the state for about a $4 million grant to widen Route 106, align Lincoln Street and Crescent Street, because they don't align right now. Over the past 5 years, we've had about 50 car accidents there. So by aligning them and putting a street light there, the hope is we would mitigate those accidents. And then obviously by double laning Route 106 as far as we can from 24 to West Street, it will stop some of the bottlenecking. And then in addition, it will minimize any of the traffic impact that would be at this industrial complex as well. So that's what's been in the work. With any luck, the state will pay for that. And the reason that state grant is available is because it's a public-private partnership, because it's piggybacking on what the proposal is from Mr. Hartline. So with that said, if there is no objection from Madam Chairwoman or any of the other board members, is that I will turn over to Rich and then he can make his presentation.
Sure. Can I just ask, did folks get a chance to watch the selectmen's meeting at all?
I did.
You did, Cheryl or Scott?
I did not, but I did read the PDF that we received today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm afraid I was away, but I did read the article.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we'll let Rich give us his presentation then.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Dave, thanks for the introduction. I think you outlined it really well. We're excited to move this project through each step of the way. I've had great guidance and input from Hugh Hurley, Dave, Bill Lucini, and others. DeBartolo came to your area almost 3 years ago, and the reason that brought us to South Boston market is the growing industrial needs that our country is seeing throughout all the major markets as well as Greater Boston. I was fortunate enough to get some land down in Bridgewater, and we are really, really excited about what we've accomplished in Bridgewater. And while I was going through the steps with the town of Bridgewater, I was made aware of this opportunity to procure, or at least get involved with Hasiota's family on this great parcel. So this is not something that we just woke up a few days ago and decided to start working on. But a little bit about DeBartolo, just real quickly, the first slide after this. I mean, DeBartolo's been around in the development game for over 70 years. Some people are aware that the original family developer, the patron, Mr. D, Senior, helped create basically the shopping center, the enclosed mall throughout the U.S. with David Simon. The company that you see before you today is really built on success. And we currently are a private family developer for Mr. D Jr., who is well known in the sports world of winning 5 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. So he's divested of that. His family's still involved through his nephew, Yorks. But what we do and what DeBartolo is doing today throughout the U.S. is finding opportunities to invest the family's money in commercial assets that are relevant to the markets that we're in. We do thousands of apartments throughout the U.S. We do hotels, mixed use, shopping centers, as well as industrial. But really, the interest and the excitement that was built in this conversation with Bill and the local team there was perfect synergy of taking this property that right now is all commercial and zone commercial back in 2008 and putting in something that's not only going to be successful, which is probably very thankful it didn't turn into a shopping center, but also something that has the least amount of impact to the traffic and the current traffic around there. And I think one thing I want to, we're going to walk through it, but the really interesting thing about this opportunity is without getting the traffic problem fixed, Crescent and 106 and Lincoln, we wouldn't develop here. At the same time, the town leaders I've been dealing with said, we don't want to even support your development unless you can help us figure out how to fix this traffic. And so what I've been working on and our team's been working on over the last probably 10 months back and forth is, number one, is there an ability with or without this project to even fix and create a better infrastructure because of all this accidents and the safety issues as well as bottlenecking that are happening today that everybody on this call experiences. I was able to not only do some investigation, but also procure the land to make it possible to relocate Lincoln Street shortly. So we currently control the land, not just the Hasiota's property that we're asking for rezoning, but also the land that would be necessary to create a safer and more functional roadway system. And I'll walk you through where we're at today. For some of you that have maybe been ordering stuff from home, maybe finally got a box delivered with a smiley face on it. We don't have Amazon as a tenant, but the growth and the changes over the last 10 years, even 15 years, on the supply chain and how things get from point A to point B is the reason why we're investing in these logistical centers. I think warehouse, when most people think about warehouse, they think about that old 1950s warehouse, some truckers, kind of a dirty environment. These things are further from the truth. These things are state of the art. You can go down and see our living example that we just finished in Bridgewater, but they got every bell and whistle you can ever imagine. And while we don't have a tenant in here, in the picture that you see in the screen is our Elm Street project. That's 350,000 feet with 32-foot clear heights. Any number of type of users can go in there. It's really exciting. You have this great Miles Standish park here by you. And if you drive door to door and look at some of the newer product out there, you have biomedical users, you have major distribution users like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, even FedEx and UPS. And you have, the Amazons of the world that some of these can put in 25 miles of robotics and things inside these buildings. So they're kind of an incubator for really where today is, not just in retail, but in globally how people are getting things from point A to point B. So the property outline and specs and what we plan to do here in this master plan is put in the latest Class A state-of-the-art logistics center. And right now what we have laid out is 2 buildings. And as Dave accurately noted, we would keep on the upper right corner at the newly realigned Lincoln Street and 106 intersection, more traditional what I'll call commercial retail. Could be a bank, could be a Starbucks, could be anything. We don't have it programmed, but we wouldn't have warehousing on the main street there, creating an eyesore or anything other issue. So it's really a mixed use industrial project, but the mixed use is we're keeping the retail commercial use up along what is the left side of the plan here along 106. One of the investigations, one of the things we moved forward on, and we'll come back to this slide again and again, but when we look at land throughout the U.S., especially in and around your great state, we're trying to figure out how to deal with either wetlands or rock or both. And so, like every project, as well as my one in Bridgewater, this is a 72-acre piece of land that probably only has 50 acres of developable uplands. Uplands, if you guys don't know, is the area that we can actually, put a development on. In July this year, through the assistance of the local environmental leadership there, we've approved the map that you see on your screen, and this delineates the known wetlands and the fixed wetlands footprint on our site. Our development works within those. It doesn't ask for any variance. We're not looking to try to, squeeze another 2 parking spots on it. So I want everybody to know too that through the zoning request, we're thoughtful developers. We're not going to go ask to bulldoze any wetlands or try to get inside and build more space. So the good thing about this wetlands, and you'll see it as it comes drop back onto the master plan, is it actually sets, if you're familiar with our building down on Elm Street that we built, it sets a natural buffer from both Lincoln Street and the highway. And talking to the Board of Selectmen, we've had, they asked for leaving obviously as much of the native trees there and creating as much natural vegetation screening. Well, I'd like to say we're really, really, really thoughtful developers, but we actually reacted to the environmental concerns, stayed out of them, and it created actually a very, very nice layout where the building itself, as you know, the land drops down from 106 here, is tucked back and not sitting right up on the road or sitting up on the highway, creating kind of an eyesore. People don't like the buildings. I think they're kind of beautiful, but if people have any issues with the scale of the project. So the Elm Street building, as you'll see a few more pictures, it's about 30 or so feet off of Elm Street. Completely different environment there. That is an industrial corridor, a business corridor. This property, the building itself, you can see, relative closeness, and I still think it's beautiful. We are almost 200 plus feet back, in some cases even further from Lincoln Street. So the way it sits as well within your community is thoughtful and reactive to the environmental issues. And again, we're working within those and following all the rules and regulations. So we're not trying to do anything that isn't approved by the state. But we're happy to have the NRAD approval. The next slide is really just talking about why there's the growth, and in particular, your market, and your market being the greater Boston market. Everything from out to 495 Loop, including south through Taunton, has always been a supply chain, but what's really happened is how do we get things to people and also have the good workforce base to support these industries. So we all know what's been happening downtown Boston over the last 20, 25 years, definitely Seaport District, where they used to have a lot of the warehouses. All those are now gone. It's dispersed and pushed out, people's need to warehouse and put things in it. So these are some of the technical stuff that we have from our marketing team or our local team. We use all local teams, but there's some good data in there. So where West Bridgewater and Bridgewater we're at is located, it's actually very fortuitous for a lot of reasons. It has access both north and south, mostly west. There's not, but there's still service to the southeast of the Cape. But there's some good information there why we're here. Boston in general, we're a national developer, isn't even in the top 20 markets as far as square footage or industrial markets, number one being where the ports are in Long Beach, 2 being New York, New Jersey. Boston's not even in the top 20. Why we're here is because while it's still a huge name, it has been left behind over the last 20 or 30 years as far as providing its classic stuff. So what we're excited to do is put these incubator logistic centers in and provide the jobs, and in this case the tax bases, which I know this is the finance committee, so we'll talk through. The next slide is some of the other milestones we met. I talked briefly right at the beginning what Dave said. I think there'll be plenty of questions, but just being careful to walk you through. We've really spent our time and tried to dot our I's and T's to even get to the point to get everybody's approval to try to get a rezoning vote with the town. We issued a traffic impact study to the town back in May. I think we delivered it. And through that study, we're able to not only understand the poor performance of the current Lincoln Street and one alignment with crescent offset and no lights, and what could happen there. And you're going to see a drawing coming up next. But the other thing we did through the efforts of our consultants and working with the town has taken the opportunity to submit, and you see the application there that was submitted to the state for what's called Mass Works. The road improvements down on Elm Street in Bridgewater were 3/4, I think, funded by Mass Works, because again, it's a public-private partnership. The state is willing to invest in infrastructure improvements for towns like yours, provided there's an incubator project or project. I think Dave can answer to some other opportunities that this road fixing would get you up the list of getting funding, whether it's partial or complete funding. We'll all figure out, but those typically come out right around election day, end of October, early November. The finance committee, as well as ourselves, will know what funds, if any, came from the state. But as far as the consultant that worked town, not DeBartolo directly, we supported whatever they did. This checks like every box. So, because you do have a very bad traffic problem today, period, it needs to be fixed. And you have more projects, more tax-based growth, more job growth, and other projects other than mine. So it's kind of, we feel pretty comfortable, but we have to wait and see. But those are two big milestones, I think, for anybody on this call that wants to get 106 fixed. The next slide. We can spend all the time you want to level of detail you want. I know I've done some white knuckle turns trying to go in and out of Honeydew, grabbing donuts. But we all can see the existing alignment in the light shading that's running from the bottom screens to Honeydew. What we've done is we've secured through a purchase and sale agreement from Mr. Dempsey his house, parcel, and whatever pieces of his retail that we need to create a four-way signalized safe intersection. What's really here, and it's more technical in the sense that, we take the existing traffic counts, trips generated both with and without our project, is we have the clogged artery. Once we relocate this and align everything, think of it as just getting your blood flowing. But what we're doing, or at least what we're recommending town do and through state funding, is we're pulling the width of 106 to the south. So you can see kind of where there's trees. This is on land that we have secured through the Haciendas, or the town already has right-of-way approval right to develop roadway infrastructure. So we'd love for that to come further, but we have two pinch points. We have existing buildings that align the street. And then on the north side, there's very little to do to push the widening of this artery, this important back and forth east-west roadway, because of primarily the cemetery just off screen to your left. We all know that right as you get on the 24. So what's really happening there today is really kind of one-way traffic with a little bit of a left-hand turn where people are having, again, white knuckle, try to get on the crescent or shoot over from Lincoln. This is trying to maintain two lanes in each direction, which would be an incredible luxury, and have a turn lane through a signalized process. So, at peak hours, the signals will let people coming off 24 and the flow of traffic into town. If people are leaving, can be programmed and allow people to leave at a longer light. We always get stuck at lights, but it shows what can be done. It also, you don't have any, or we all don't have any pedestrian thoroughfares to the south side today on 106. There is a sidewalk on the north side. There isn't any pedestrian thoroughfare on the south side. Through this design and realignment, we've shown the ability, and you can have sidewalks on both sides of the intersection. And as we were brought up in our board of selectmen's call, there's a walk through this future sports complex or whatever's planned by the town to try to build off of this infrastructure rework and then connect pedestrian thoroughfare, meaning sidewalk, down one or both sides of Lincoln towards this new complex. So it's really kind of a phoenix from the fire and ashes if we can pull all of this off. And again, as we're tethered in our approach, we'd like to try to develop something that also, creates tax base and jobs, but also fix this problem, because without fixing this problem, there's really no project. And then I think the next slide talks to really a type of finance committee topic, if we were being very specific. What's intended, and I don't want to try to confuse anybody any more than what this says, what was intended, this was an early conversation piece with the leadership that I was meeting with at the town, taking the current taxable income on the 72 acres that the Haciendas have. Today, it yields approximately $90,000, 89 and change. If all of the development went in, meaning we did one building, we did a second building, we did the retail, the valuations through your tax assessor's process can fluctuate, not just, land value, but also the buildings and the infrastructure put on it. So all we did here is pick the low, medium, and high on the first phase. I did an average of that based on your current tax rate. So even an average project of $20 million, that's taxable. And I think that question came up to some people I've met with before. To develop my first building, it's going to be in the neighborhood of $35 to $40 million, all in. That's financing, that's land, that's architects, that's engineers, that's too much for attorneys, permit fees, everything that we do. But the actual buildings that are there, going off the tax valuation again that we're doing in the valuation, not the tax rate down at Bridgewater. I gave everybody just a picture of if, kind of a conservative, and then if we did all three buildings that valued at 26 million, which I think, quite frankly, could be even higher. I would leave it to the tax assessor, but you can see that we're going from an 89,000 annual on the fallow land that's out there to anywhere from 600 to 750,000 on an annualized basis based on your current tax. And then the right side was when we were talking through, not to get off track, but I'll tell you where this all started. How to do infrastructure. This is before we had a drawing. This is before we knew if we could even fix the roadway. I was using what the town of Bent in Bridgewater to fix Elm Street, which was multiple miles, including a signal. So it was a much larger project down there. So I was just simply saying, hey, if the all-in cost $3 million or $4 million or $5 million as an investment, this would be the payback of spending that money, how quickly you could pay these things back. So if we were taxed at $743,000 annually, this is the quick payback. I don't know if someone's got a sticky note on that.
Sorry.
So that's all right. So that's all that is. The reason that was on there was simply the town of Bridgewater was already working through the Mass Works project when we showed up on the scene to buy the land from the church. The one issue we really had in financing Elm Street and working through real lenders and real interested finance parties was underwriting the town's ability to execute. So the only reason this spreadsheet on the right of this machine is there was I wanted to try to figure out how we could set up a TIF, I could build the roadways, and then over time get paid back the taxes. Kind of, again, the state of Massachusetts allows TIFs, but only when there's a proven tenant, landlord, and the property agent through it. So if the town were to get 100% of Mass Works grant, then the right side of this payback pattern is just taxes. So that's the only financial numbers you'll see on my end for those that have already looked at my slide. And then the last slide is really just, we're only as good as our last deal, and we're only as good as our word. And I'm just introducing myself to a number of you. The Bartolo family, Google with all, you will find, do things at the highest level. I have one of the easiest, hardest jobs. I have a very wealthy private family I developed for, but the single worst thing I could ever do is ruin the reputation of the family. So we're very careful. We're very conservative. We follow the rules. We walk down the middle of the lane and we, say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and thank you. So, The last slide is,
May I interrupt you?
sure.
Because I was one of the bankers who helped the previous owners procure this property. It came to 2008 and they decided this was not the property for them because there were issues with water, with other things evolving around this property. I know you're probably cognizant of all this stuff, but I also am very worried about the street. There are things that are precious to our environment. There are places where parents have lived there for a long time and raised their babies. It's just beyond where your property is. And I'm going to say that might be something you have to worry about because environmental people are going to cause a problem.
Understood.
Do you understand that? Have you researched that?
I don't have any knowledge of the heron mention that you have, but going back to the earlier reference to the previous developer's approach, this project has probably 100-fold less impact than the approved anticipated commercial center that was originally rezoned for back in, I think, 2008. And we do shopping. I just finished the shopping center out on the west side of Oahu. I lived in Hawaii for 5 years. I moved back. That the water issue doesn't have an issue for this building. The environmental issue, I want to just answer it very thoughtfully, not to shut you down, and I'll listen to every word you say. The environmental issues, we are absolutely positively not doing anything that the local environmental groups have to approve. We're not asking for forgiveness. We're not asking to push a wetland line afoot. We're not asking for any encroachment or special variances at all. And we have to go through, we went through our ANRAD process, and we have to go through a MEPA process, which I have to probably get my engineers on to get me through all these reasons, but it's because we have, but the state.
I just want you to know that I know that there have been problems there. And if you ameliorate them, I'm happy. That's all I want to know. That's
okay. Yeah. No, absolutely. We've had those issues and we'll keep that in good context.
I would just add on to that this would need to come before the Conservation Commission.
Correct.
And all of your concerns, I'm sure, are going to be addressed and more at that time. So there's going to be a process here.
Yeah.
If I can just say something here also, the area you're talking at the very southern end of this property is a lot of wetland. It's and when the rezoning was done back before, when it was rezoned from the farming to the business, they stopped at 3,000 feet from West Center Street, and everything to the south of that has remained in the farming and residential and farming. I think that's the area you were talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they only took the first part. Now there's some wetland pockets in there which show on their plan, and the configuration of the building and the roadways are based upon the ANRAD that they have, because they do have these sections. But when you get to the southerly end there that remained the other zone, that's a real wetland. It's connected. It's a brook. It's a pond, little pond in there. That's just the kind of area you're talking about. They're nowhere near that. Although they will own it, they won't be able to do anything with it because it has the zoning is for farming, and they're not farmers, and the residential, you couldn't build houses on it down there.
Let me say this: there are trucks. Trucks leak crap. They don't mean to do it, but they do. You know, there are hydraulic lines, there are oil lines. If they can stay so many places, so many yards away from asphalt that might have runoff when it rains, we need to mitigate what's going to go on the backside of this.
We will follow and probably well exceed any minimum requirements. And we just did, and it's not as sensitive to this Heron area because we have, I can't remember the numbers, but in Elm Street, I think we purchased 69 acres and we only could develop 30. And every drop of water that, not just rainwater that hits the asphalt, but anything that touches the roof or not has to go through a filtration system, and then how it can or cannot recharge back in the wetlands. And Silva Engineering is in Bridgewater. They're the ones that design it. They will be our engineer on this one. So I'm not minimizing it. I'm just saying we've been told on other projects before what we can and can't do, and we don't fight it. We work with it. I don't have your name, and I want to, because I think your background on the banking side of the previous is huge, and I want to seize on that, because we're not kind of trying to do this and then hopefully we can make it work out. We understand that we have a huge hurdle, and that's number one, to fix the traffic problem. Number two, to get rezoned. And if we can do that, then I've got a litany of effort, including these important environmental concerns you said, to address to the absolute specification requirements of all of the environmental groups as well. So until I get to that list and see what I have to do and go through that, I can just rest assured we just did it down the road. We didn't do anything uncomfortable, and had the previous development actually gone forward, which is currently zoned for. Like if I just wanted to come in and build a shopping center, I wouldn't be, I mean, I would just have to go through all the planning stuff.
No, I can't divulge all the information I knew about what.
Oh no, I'm not asking to.
I can't do that, but I need to tell you there were really big concerns about what we were doing about the periphery, and they were trying to push a lot against things, but I was the loan officer, so
okay.
I have to tell you, I'm not going to tell you anything else, except I know there were very big concerns about what they were going to do against some type environmental things, and I hope you're not the same company.
No, I'm not, and I'm not asking you to divulge anything. I just think your knowledge of how we have to get these things financed is really instrumental.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Yeah, and I would again say, since I'm on Conservation Commission as well, that we'll see you again. And
yes,
although, and I won't belabor it here, I mean, we're very fair, but also very demanding of environmental issues, and they've touched on some of them, like the drainage in the bays and runoff, and we'll all deal with that, believe me, and it'll be fine in the end.
No, I totally agree.
I mean, this right now is to just change the zoning.
Yeah.
It's not really your project per se, right?
Right.
I mean, you already own this property, or you're.
We have a purchase and sale agreement with the Hasiotis family, and it's conditioned on getting this use approved.
Okay.
Because we don't want to do 40B and we don't want to do the commercial that's currently zoned and as of right.
Yeah, because those are the other options. I mean, it's currently zoned for, like retail space, commercial stuff, which, you wouldn't even need to get a different zoning for that. And, it could go down that road. It could go down a 40B road. This to me seems like a much less intrusive, much lower impact to the community and the property itself, putting something like this there than some of the other things that could go there.
From a number of aspects, and there's some other people obviously from the town on this call that can answer it specifically, it has a lower impact. And again, I'm just telling you the benefits, lower impact to the bottom line operating costs of the town of West Bridgewater than the current use. It has a lower traffic impact than what the current use is as well. And in my words, it's the more relevant use versus 40B, or no offense, 40B, or a commercial shopping center in the long term, because of even those market conditions slide that I gave you. It's not going to go away. The need for this type of space is growing and growing and growing. And for example, we just got a request to propose on a term with a group, and it's for PP&E storage as well as manufacturing for the city. And they're thinking about 350,000 feet just for personal protective equipment, because of the pandemic. So, there's not a lot of space like this, and the type of users that do come in that need it are relevant users. And I think it's important that this thing is relevant for 20 and 30 and 50 years, not just 5 years, and then someone bulldozes it and tries to do something else. So I think it's the best use of the land. It truly yields the best value for the Hasiotis family as far as the purchase price as well. No one's walking up and offering money to go build a shopping center there. So there's a lot of lesser impacts to the town in this use than any other use currently approved as zone, as noted, it when you just come in and do it. The other thing is it generates a significant amount, but that with no other impacts to your school system, other impacts to your parks, those type of things that are there. So.
Yeah. Hugh, do you want to, say anything about this from your perspective?
I'd love to. I wasn't involved right at the beginning. Mr. Lassini was the first one who got involved with it, and then he brought me in on it, and then we brought David in. And initially, I was quite impressed with it. The thing is, it's not going to remain farming. Something is going to happen. That's too nice a piece of land right at an interchange on Route 24. It's, for marketing, it's a great piece of property. So something's going to happen. We over the years we've had several things. When Terry Conroy was involved way back, and he was looking at a shopping center which would have had a tremendous amount of traffic. We had somebody that was a year or two ago was looking at for rental cars when they're done renting them to have virtually a parking lot for cars. We became very concerned with that from the environmental and also the trucking that'd be coming in on big trucks and without any light there. And at that time, they weren't proposing putting any lights. They just wanted to go in there and use it. One of the beauties of this is if we can get the light in there, this will work. If we don't get the light, we know it won't work. McDonald's was looking at Dempsey's a number of years ago. Without a light, they didn't want it because they knew somebody could get in there and get the hamburger, but they'd never get back. They'd never take a left turn to get back on the board. So with everything together, this can work. And the beauty of it is it has probably the lowest traffic count of any use that you would have, because it isn't like a big office building that has everybody comes to work at 8 o'clock and they all go home at 5 o'clock. It isn't like a movie theater, which when the theater gets out, you got 500 people coming out in one big chunk. So it's good that way. At the selectmen's meeting, I was asked, is it any downside to it? And I really, other than during the construction, it's going to be a nuisance. But after that, all I can really see is it's a win-win situation. As far as the environmental issues go, they've already virtually cut the very sensitive wetland off of it. And as Mo has said, they're going to have to do everything according to the regulations. We have a stormwater bylaw in effect that is also administered by the Conservation Commission. which are going to be it's very stringent. As far as like you were talking about the runoff water, everything will be taken to retention ponds that'll be on this site, and then eventually flow down through the wetlands that are in there. But the water quality going in there is going to be very very good. And really, the bottom line is the town is never going to be able to come up with the $3 million, which what the number is they're kicking around now to take care of this. I heard what the number was for the lights that are going in Howard Street, which they're in the process of putting in now. But it's it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a huge amount of money. So if we can have somebody come along and we can tap into a state grant, and one of the reasons is the development of the area is one of the things the state is interested in. We can get our road fixed, and then afterwards we have a tax generator that will. And the beauty of the tax generator is they're not sending any kids to our school, which is, as you all know, is our biggest expense in town. So I think from a planner's outlook on it, I'm quite pleased with it.
Yeah.
If we could have had a stay at farm, that's the only thing I'd rather see. But that's not realistic. So with that being said, I think this is a very good usage of it. And I don't know how many of you were at the town meeting when Warren Turner was still moderator. I mean, he told how the town turned down Shaw's wanted to put their warehouse in West Bridgewater, and it was turned down. So they went to East Bridgewater, and every single one of Shaw's trucks drove through through West Bridgewater to get to East Bridgewater, which is right on the town line. The land is almost in West Bridgewater. It was so close to West Bridgewater, but all we got was the traffic. And East Bridgewater got all the money. Well, here the trucks can come off at 24, and that's where most of the trucks are going to be coming. This kind what Rich is talking about. It isn't local distributors. It's going to be long haulers coming in, and then it will be broken up and taken out in smaller trucks. But most of them are going to come in by 24, and they're going to go out by 24. They'll never see Elm Square. They'll never see the center. They'll only see Cochise.
So how big is the retail piece that's going to be along 106? What types of businesses? I know you don't have a tenant yet, but what types of businesses do you envision renting that space or leasing it or whatever?
I think based on the dimensions, and this, I think if everybody see this, if Warner got something, that, and I'm colorblind, I apologize. That pinkish area, I think, fuchsia, is just a general idea, but based on the roadway frontage, the distance to the intersection, and then the depth down Lincoln Street, right? It doesn't have a lot of depth. If you can, Mr. Kuntz, it's probably suited for one type, and I'm making it up, a bank with a drive-through. It could be, I just heard McDonald's. McDonald's would need something this large, for example, but it could be a two-building kind of shop. So I don't know what those users could be, but sitting at a signalized intersection, very safely and easily moving in and out, it's a heck of a lot more useful than what's out there today. And one thing I'll add too, and just throw on, we've been in conversation for quite some time once we control the land with Shell owner. You can see the Shell in there. They're really, really, really wanting to reinvest and build a brand new center or whatever their state-of-the-art market, whatever they do. So I've been speaking with Robert for quite some time because he would love to see the roadway be redeveloped, get some of the stacking traffic out of his front door, but he'd also like a little bit of our land to increase its footprint to do a better development. And he's been talking for some time with the town about planning on doing something. So they're excited to see you see on the stream ultimately come through. But, that should be a brand new, beautiful facility that would become along. Well, not speaking for them at all, but we definitely support what they're doing.
Can you speak a little bit to the impact on, I think there's some, residential homes and things in that area, the impact maybe of, is it going to be really super noisy, or what kind of an impact will it have on really the people that are living around that area?
Well, I would say any development other than leaving it fallow is going to not be it wouldn't be well suited to me if there's two kind of main parcels that abut our side of Lincoln Street or Hasiotis' side on Lincoln Street. I don't know if that's a total of 2 or 4 actual residences, but I don't think they would have been happy if there was a movie theater and shopping center or 40 people. Well, so I can't imagine there's anything other, as Hugh said, not developing ever, and somebody buying Hasiotis' land and turning it into a field. I don't think they're ever going to like it. So what have we done, at least master planning? 2 things is, one is we're significantly far away from the resident. By right, like I said, I don't want to come off as insincere, but where the wetland lines are and our setback requirements are, the buildings themselves are not anywhere near where they could be or would be if the wetlands weren't there. So nature has already flexed a little bit of its muscle. If we went back and were able to pull the site plan, scale. The other thing that we do have is, and it was mentioned briefly, is we do have a lot of retention basins. These are landscape, they have water in them. They're man-made, of course, meaning contoured. Those are also going to be heavily landscaped, but we also have really good street trees and existing heavy growth behind the residences. The particular one that's close to Lincoln and 106, those 2 residences, that's all going to stay. So we're.
Question?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Down the road going toward, I don't know what it is, Lincoln Street. I am concerned that all the folks down there might not know what's going on. And I think, I lost my thought, sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry, I'll say nothing else.
Okay, well, kind of staying on, it's a very good question. And ultimately,
the folks down there are going to have a whole bunch of stuff going in front of their houses. And I'm just worried.
I think going back to the original question and your worry, this land to be developed is going to put one more car on the road at some sort of time. As far as noise abatement, that was part of the question. We're held both to the local requirements, whatever the town of West Bridgewater noise and all those things are. I can say for the most part, it's not, I don't know the user, so I can't really speak to, but 99.9% of the stuff that happens is going to be inside of it. And as you said, the transferring back and forth is going to be, and it's not always trucks. I mean, we have to allow for trailers, but if you go up the road and go to Miles Standish, the Amazon last mile facility, it's all personal vehicle cars, small Sprinter vans you see with a smile on them. So it doesn't necessarily mean we will have 18 wheelers that are 52 feet long, stacked up at the intersection. But I don't want to say we know who it is, but really it's traffic sound, braking and starting, cars accelerating and decelerating will be 99.9% of the noise or the sound that's created by the development. No different than a shopping center coming in and out with all the trucks servicing the Kohl's or the Target stores. So if there's any manufacturing tenant type of thing, then there's both noise ordinances, and also they don't want to have anything make sound outside either. So I'm pretty sure, I haven't brushed up on, I'm pretty sure we have a requirement to keep a certain amount of decibels from a certain amount of distance at a certain time.
I would like to tell you something.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I live on 106, and I'm at the bend of West Bridgewater, next to the railroad tracks. And I listen to heavy trucks, I mean gravel haulers, out in front of my house, jake braking all day long. I don't think that anybody respects our community and there's signs. And I think that maybe the folks on that end of town were going to experience the same stuff. I don't know.
I think all of those are real concern, and I've been on this road as well as the one on the loops under a little south of there on the underpass. And you know, whether it's Harley Davidsons with the crazy muffler, some of the other type of cars, anytime you're near a road, you run that experience. Heck, I get it in my quiet neighborhood, and but I hear you.
I just don't want to subject these people to the same thing I do. I have.
Okay, I understand.
Mo, did you have something?
I do have a couple of quick questions. I know they were covered under the selectmen's meeting, but I wasn't too clear on things. The first would be, is the DeBartolo company looking for tax incentives on this project?
The tax incentive discussion was simply to help fund the roadway system. If the roadway comes in fully funded, then we have no interest in TIF requests or TIF needs. The rest of the financing to complete the project would be done on our side. I will say certain, and to answer you, without the tenant involved, certain tenants may want to come to West Bridgewater looking at the taxes. They may or may not want to sit down as a tenant and talk to you about inducing 300, 800,000 jobs and what the town is willing to roll out to them. But that is not part of our requirement. The only discussion was singularly to help fund the roadways.
Okay, and that pretty much answered my second question, which was the signalization of that intersection, that if the state does not grant the money, then we have to look at some other alternatives then.
One of the selectmen asked that question right at the end, and maybe it kind of didn't get answered clearly. We would want the road, and we would need the road to even do this development. Same thing,
Right.
Whether it's one truck or 6 trucks, we don't want people diving out trying to take a left, or to the concern of the other member, having people take a right down Lincoln and run around and go through more neighborhood roads.
Sure.
So the lack of funding, if it didn't come in, would then be a sit down with the town leaders and us and trying to come then forward and say, here's a creative solution.
Right.
And that creative solution could be deferral of a TIF program, but you know, itemization of a development agreement, refunded at a future date. I don't want to, we have not gone through that.
Right.
You know, we all want you to get it. And to Dave Gagne's point at the selectmen's meeting, we're helping you get the points to get the money. I don't believe if you got the money, there was any obligation 100% that I would have to develop. So there's a potential, maybe a best case scenario for those that don't want to look at is we don't move forward and develop, and you guys get your funding and actually can get your roads fixed. That, I guess, would be for the anti-development groups out there. That's not what we would want to do with the money we spent, but globally, that's still an option, and you should hear something in and around the election. You know,
Well, thanks. So those are the 2 questions I had.
So what if you build this? Is there any possibility you wouldn't get any tenants? And then what happens to this big building? Would you still maintain it and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, the likelihood of having it built and empty forever is slight, because we wouldn't invest money in it, right?
Yeah.
Everything does come with a risk. As
Right.
far as maintaining it and all that stuff, we would be maintaining it just like we have in Elm Street, which we don't have a tenant in today right now, because it's what we're required to do and what we do. But globally, this type of Class A product, and I could actually do a sidebar with any of you in our local brokerage firm, they can count on one hand how many brokers are empty. and the length of time they remain empty. And not.
Okay.
The most recent ones nearest you is over in Bellingham. There was a two-build project in Bellingham, and one month in the one building that's good for 13 months. A 10-year lease with Amazon. So,
Rich, is the company traded on the stock exchange?
no, we're a private family. No,
So
sir.
there's, I'm sure you've provided some financial data to the town administrator.
We're more than welcome to provide any proof of financial or to some extent it's always, but the balance sheet of Mr. D is
To my knowledge, they are part of the group that does malls, the Simon Group.
no,
Yeah. Right now, at this time, they're experiencing some difficulties because the malls are not doing well. So I wish to put that forward.
yeah. So to be clear, DeBartolo is not at all part of Simon. We divested and sold to Simon, and it has got zero to do with DeBartolo development. Not to speak about the private holdings of our chairman, but Mr. D Jr. has a significant amount of stock in Simon, but DeBartolo development and Simon have nothing to do with each other. And as he was previously listed in the Forbes 400 at $3 or $4 billion, I'm not a DeBartolo. He has seen the stocks, and I think some of the quarterlies on the Simon, including David Simon, who's paying out full dividends this year, they are dealing with it accordingly. But how Simon's stock goes has no bearing on this investment or moving forward capability.
It's very good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, good, great question.
Does anyone have any other questions, or Dave, do you want to speak to it at all?
No, I guess I would say this. My job as town administrator is to do what I think is the best thing on behalf of the town. Then everybody else gets to vote. I just bring the information forward. I know this. Progress doesn't stop. When progress does stop, then we have stagnation, and nobody wants that. So if we believe that progress is always going to move forward, this property is going to be developed. And so my job then is, what can I do to make sure that we have the least amount of impact that brings in the most amount of dollars on behalf of the town? There is no doubt that there'll be some truck traffic, but there will be truck traffic if it was remain commercial and it was a mall, because whether it's Kohl's or whatever, they all have to receive their wares. And so to me, it's about equivalent as to what that would be. The difference is that if you go over to Mansfield Crossing or Rentham Outlets, you're talking thousands and thousands of cars every single day. That is not going to occur with this development. On top of that, and I don't know if it was mentioned earlier because I took myself off video, I received a phone call from one of the selectmen, so I had to answer it, is that when the trucks come off Route 24, they are going to take an immediate right-hand turn onto an access road. They're never going to make it to Lincoln Street. That was already covered. I apologize if it wasn't said. I want to make you know. So that means
Information, very, very important.
yeah, so they're not even going to make it to Lincoln. They're just going to make it to the gas station, and then they're going to take a right-hand turn. So let's just put a number to it to make it simple, is that if 100 trucks per day were to go into the facility, that's 200 trips, right? 100 in, 100 out. But that means only that 100 is going to make it to Lincoln Street. The first 100 doesn't make it that far. So from my standpoint, from a holistic, global 30,000-foot standpoint, I know the following. Route 106 needs help.
Yeah.
Nobody can disagree on that. And the town doesn't have the $3 to $4 million. I have, over the last 5 years, according to the police department, 50 or so car accidents that have occurred at Crescent Street and Lincoln Street with people trying to take left-hand turns. And the truth of the matter is, they get impatient. They can't take a left. Nobody gives them the help. The road's backed up. They dart. They get hit. So I can hopefully save people. Not that we've had a death, but obviously one day it could happen. But I can mitigate the use of my police and my fire at that intersection. We put a set of lights. The state pays for it. That land is going to get developed, and I can turn close to $1 million of annual revenue with the least amount of impact. And as long as everything goes according to plan, never does, but we give it our shot, the town literally pays nothing. The state pays for the road. The developer pays for the industrial. He puts commercial up front, which is already by right. It can go in there tomorrow without having this conversation. We receive the benefit of it, and I don't have the impacts on police, fire. If it's residential, I have to plow it. I don't have to plow it if it remains industrial. And as a result of all that, I just think that this is the best use of the land that I could possibly come up with, minus it staying the way it is, which in the short term may be possible, but there's no way that 70 acres, 50 of it developable, within a stone's throw of a major interstate is going to remain like that forever. This is the best use of the land. And quite frankly, we've done our due diligence on the developer as well. We have some residential developers in town that I do not want to do business with again. We have some developers in town that I would like to do business with again. Everything that I have heard, because I'm very close to the town manager in Bridgewater, in fact, I talked to him today, is that his response to me is that everything that they asked Rich to do, he did. I could tell you that every time I've reached out to him, he's always responded. He's responded to every email and every question. He's 3 hours behind, and he has told me if I want to have a meeting with him at 7 o'clock in the morning, he'll get up and have that meeting. So I feel like we have a good developer, and I also feel we have a good development. And I think this is the best thing that we can do for the town with all the facts we have at hand.
David, could you just briefly explain what can be built under commercial zoning and what can be built under industrial? Is that what the change is being asked for?
Yeah.
Maybe I might be able to answer that a little bit
Go ahead.
better. And under the industrial, you can have things like warehouses, but you can have all the commercial things too. So they could put a store in there. They could put a donut shop, a coffee shop, or McDonald's. But marketing is going to tell them to put it up right at the corner there. Nobody wants to drive half a mile off a road to go to one of those. So that it'll be up there. But it's something like the warehousing. A lot of the things that can be done in there require special permits. So it's going to be a lot of review. This isn't going to be something that they go up to the building inspector and they say, I want a permit. And he says, give me a check and I'll give you a permit. It won't happen that way. This will be most likely, if it's a special permit, it's going to be public hearings. It'll be some time. Everything goes under site plan review, and anything that has wetlands goes before the Conservation Commission, which you're very well acquainted with. So it's going to be thoroughly scrutinized before anything goes in there. One of the things we're very aware of when you were talking about earlier about the neighboring residents is lighting. We try to have the down lightings where everything is brought down. There used to be a development, a glow. We used to know Rainham Park only used to run a couple months of the year, and we always knew when it was open because it looked like the moon over that whole section of town. As far as noise, we're looking to the plantings. Richard mentioned it earlier, looking to put plantings in because trees are one of the best things going for mitigating the noise. You already have the noise of Route 24 coming across there. In fact, this building might even alleviate some of the 24 noise because it'll be it'll be something in the way breaking it up. But there'll be, these kind of things will be looked at during the permit process. I know when he did the Bridgewater one, it was quite a long, drawn out process. I know we got notified of it in West Bridgewater because of something happening in the abutting town. We got notice of it. So it'll be very well scrutinized.
So this can't be built under the current zoning, though.
This warehouse, no. That
That's
is
why
correct.
we're at the town meeting, right?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, a good example of it is when they wanted to put basically a warehouse on South Main Street, which was in the business zone. It was almost down to the Bridgewater line, and that was stopped. They tried getting a variance from it, which they did not get because they were in it. But no, this is the zone for it, and warehousing is. Most of these industrial parks, they got more warehouses than they don't make anything in our industrial parks because we don't make anything in this state anymore. All we do is bring it in from someplace else and move it around. So warehousing is the new industry.
Thank you.
So does anyone have any other questions, or I think we need to make a vote here, right?
Yeah, so if there's no more discussion, then the finance committee then will be asked to make a recommendation at town meeting. And the recommendation, again, is not specific to the project. The recommendation is specific to whether or not you're in favor of amending the zoning from commercial to industrial. So the motion would be to either recommend or not to recommend, and then Madam Chairwoman, you would ask for that vote.
Okay. I mean, I know typically this committee, for a lot of these zoning things, refers it to voters. In this case, though, there is a pretty big financial impact to the town. So, I think we should either recommend or not recommend as opposed to just referring to the voters, but, whatever you guys think. But I think somebody needs to make a motion on whether we want to recommend this, not recommend it, or refer it to voters.
Madam Chairman, Cheryl Adams, I would like to make an amendment to recommend to voters for a vote.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of recommending this to the voters, this change in the bylaw?
Aye.
I think we have to do it by roll call, right, David?
That is correct. So if everybody could say their last name and the way they vote, please.
Mo McCarthy, yes.
Cheryl Adams, yes.
Scott?
Scott Weatherby, aye.
Janice Fox, yes. It sounds like we have a unanimous recommendation to the town to approve this change in the zoning bylaw. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time to make the presentation to the committee. I know you've probably memorized it by now. You've had to make it a few times, but we do appreciate it.
Not at all. Thank you all very much. Thanks for the positive response. And
yeah, your patience with our questions.
No, not at all. And Lauren has been great to work with, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person next Wednesday at the planning presentation.
Great.
All right.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, for your input. That's very helpful.
Oh, anytime.
And all the work
Yes,
that you've
thank you.
done on this.
Thank you for supporting it.
Yep. Yeah, so if I may jump in, Jan, I think
Absolutely.
Rich made a good point. So just so everybody is aware that not only is on this call, but is also watching us at home, is that next Wednesday night, September 16th, the planning board will be having this exact same presentation before it as well as part of its planning board public hearing process. It will be at the Howard Street School. It'll be at 7:30, and we may end up moving it to a different room depending on size. Hugh and I were discussing that earlier today. If it does, we'll just post it accordingly. So when you go there, you would move to another room. But the bottom line is the presentation was done before the Board of Selectmen. It's being done before you. It will be done before the planning board, and then it'll be done again at town meeting. It's our attempt to make sure that because this is a big change with a potential impact to the town, that we've legitimately done everything that we can to get all the information in front of everyone so they can make the best informed decision. Town meeting will be September 21st on a Monday night.
Okay.
Okay.
And David, can you just talk for like 2 seconds just about that grant? So this is a grant from the state and it's $4 million that we're looking for?
Yeah, so I've applied for what they refer to as a Mass Works grant through Mass DOT. They have what they refer to as public-private partnership grants. So because we're able to piggyback ready, immediately available project, they will look to help develop infrastructure where there is a lack of infrastructure, allowing that commercial development to take place. And so they give you points. So this project scores a bunch of points because of job creation, and it's converting unused space into used space. Obviously, Route 106 is already overtaxed, but I will tell you, we're going to get points for 2 other items as well. On Route 106, adjacent to Honeydew, is right now a proposed 40B project. It's 24 apartments, only on 0.7 acres. In my opinion, it's too many houses or too many apartments on too small of a property. But unfortunately, the state has approved the location. So at this point, the town then has to do its due diligence, which will take another 6 or 9 months to go through the permitting process. And who knows whether it will get permanent or not. You know, there's always, it's a process. However, in this case here, because it has been permitted, because it has been applied for and approved by the state, we're actually in the beneficial position that it's been approved through the state that we can get additional points for it. So I applied for the grant and we placed the following in the grant. 3 items that help us. 1 is the commercial development potential that we discussed earlier. 2 is not only affordable and not only housing, but affordable housing that would be immediately benefited as well. And the last is, although it's the lowest points, is that our Russo complex that the town just purchased over this past summer allows us to be able to show that we've got open space as well that will be better served. So we've put all of that into an application. The application is being reviewed and the decision will be made at the end of October, right before the election. We've already reached out to our state delegation who has already written us letters. And I've also reached out to OCPC, our local regional planning council, who has written us a support letter as well. We've applied for $4 million because that is the estimated cost. They may come back and only award us $2 million. At that point, we would go out to bid and say it comes in at $2.6 million. Then we have to find out where we're going to come up with the extra $600,000. Quite frankly, that would probably be a conversation with Rich, as he announced earlier. Hopefully, they give us $4 million. We go out to bid. It comes in at $3.2 million. The state saves $800,000. We won't know until this all shakes out. But I do think it's an opportunity on the state's dime for us to be able to expand 106, get the light in, and do the best we can to try to stop the bottleneck of Route 24, especially as people merge into West Bridgewater coming off the highway.
Yeah.
Yep.
How would they have room for 24 units plus parking and everything in that small of a piece of property? That seems undoable.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you. They're calling for, on 24 apartments, they're calling for 44 parking spots, of which 4 by law have to be handicap spots. So it's really 40 traditional spots for 24 apartments. Half the apartments on 24, 1 will be a 3-bedroom, and then the half of those will be 1, and the other half will be 2. Personally, it's not enough parking.
No.
Unfortunately, the state does not have state guidelines on parking when it comes to 40B, because many of these affordable units are done in extremely dense areas of, say, Newton or Cambridge, where there is no parking.
Right.
However, in the letter that I wrote to Mass Housing, where I objected to it going there based on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, is that we do not have an established public transportation sector anywhere near that site.
Nothing.
I'm sorry, were you going to say, Cheryl?
I said, we have no public transportation.
Yep. So that's exactly correct. So unfortunately, the state has a mandate to try to find as much more affordable housing that is going to trump all the other concerns. That is one of our concerns, though, is going to be lack of parking. Because with lack of parking, that means it's going to spill over into the side streets. Obviously, people can't park on 106. But there are two side small streets, High Street behind in the rear, French Street on the right, on the left. That's not going to be enough to handle the overflow of parking. And God forbid I have to get a fire truck up because of a fire.
Yeah.
So we've already placed all of our concerns to the State Housing Authority. Unfortunately, they didn't take our side on it, but those concerns will be provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And now we'll have to ask the developer in any way possible to be able to mitigate for those issues.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I think next on the agenda, we need to approve the meeting minutes of May 21st. Have folks had a chance to read those?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
do I have a
I'll
motion?
move to approve.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you, Mo. And we have to do it roll call again?
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
so
so,
all
Mo-
those in favor, Mo?
okay, yeah, Mo McCarthy made the second on the motion, and we'll vote yes.
Okay,
Cheryl?
aye.
Scott Weatherby, aye.
Jan Fox, aye. We need a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the June 29th for review. Would someone,
I move to accept the minutes of 6:29 for review.
I will second.
thank you. Mo?
Mo McCarthy, yes.
Cheryl?
Yes,
Scott?
Scott Weatherby, aye.
Jan Fox, aye. And then we have to accept the meeting minutes from the August 6th meeting for review.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for what was the date again?
August 6th.
August 6th for review.
I
I'll
second.
second. Oh, there you go. You got it. And I'll say aye. Scott Weatherby, aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Jan Fox, aye. I think that covers everything on the agenda. Have we missed anything, David?
No, you guys did great.
Oh my God.
Are
No,
you all
look-
right?
Once I found the sound, I was all set.
Gets a little tricky. Yeah.
Look, the reality is this is not an easy format. You have almost a dozen people, a large project that is complex, that has a ton of moving parts to it. And each and every single one of you asked a lot of good questions, trying to figure out exactly, find out all the information that you can. Because in a week and a half, town meeting is going to sit there and they're going to look to you for advice.
No,
We
And,
hope.
And so this is not an easy format, but seriously, I think you guys did a really good job.
Yeah, and can you remind me, town meeting is again scheduled for?
Yeah, Monday, September 21st at 6 p.m. In the gymnasium like last time.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other business we need to talk about, or do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I,
Scott Weatherby,
We have
aye.
We have to roll call it or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Mo will be aye.
Cheryl?
Cheryl, say aye.
Jan Fox, aye.
Scott
Thank
Weatherby,
you,
aye.
everyone. We'll
Take
have
care, everyone.
new members at some point, and we'll be talking to